Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to TraderMerlin Show for your Monday editions, the 20th of March today. Another exciting week to be sure. Wednesday really is when all the fireworks hit, but there is some fun stuff to talk about today. So hello, everybody. Hope you all had a great weekend. I didn't have enough time to really prepare all the slides and materials like I normally do because I've just been really damn busy lately, but I will go through the topic du jour and one of the graphics I did create for today, which goes, fire up the printing press. And I basically told Midjourney, I said, give me a picture of Jerome Powell, and I want him grinning, firing up a printing press with money spewing out of it. And that's the picture I got. I think he actually did a pretty darn good job, although I wish these symbols behind it were actually dollar signs and looked like money. But it is what it is. So what is the main reason for this topic today? Well, you may have heard over the weekend there was a bet last... it was a bet. Yeah, actually it was a bet, but there was a prominent figure in the financial markets, in the crypto world, who is the former chief technical officer over at Coinbase. He also worked for Andreessen Horowitz, and he's kind of a bigwig. His name is Balaji, I'm always going to butcher this last name, I apologize, Balaji Srinivasan. And he is basically saying that within the next 90 days, he expects Bitcoin to hit $1 million. And of course, as someone who holds some Bitcoin in their portfolio, I'm like, hell yeah, bring it on, man, let's make it rain. But you have to understand that if Bitcoin gets to $1 million, it's not just because Bitcoin is popular. It's a result of a complete failure of the financial system. So I thought it might be interesting to talk a little bit today about what is really going on here with this quote-unquote firing up of the printing presses. And then I will go into some other information, show you some charts, etc., and see where we are headed in the long-term picture. So in order to get us started here, I wanted to bring up the picture of M1 money supply. And again, one of the main reasons, at least in my belief, why we are sitting here in the situation we are in today is because of this pop that started back in March of 2020 when we had a $4 trillion worth of M1 money supply. And for those who don't know, M1 money supply represents the amount of physical dollars or cash equivalents in around the world. So essentially we went from $4 trillion, and all of a sudden you can see it went to 4.7 and then to 16 like the next month. In April, we were at $4.7 trillion of money in the market, and then the next month we jumped to 16. We literally increased $14 trillion in 1 month and then proceeded to rally all the way up to a high here of 20.6 back in April of 2022. Now, the good news is that the Fed has been very clear. It says they know it's a bad thing, but it was done in an effort to save a market from a pandemic, which obviously most of us have not lived through a pandemic. So let's fight it off and make sure we get things under control. So by doing that, at least in my perspective, it created the impacts on inflation. When you have that many dollars chasing the same amount of goods and services, that creates inflation and could lead to hyperinflation, which actually was the talk track back in 2020 and 2021 is, here we go. Fortunately, things kind of calmed down a little bit. We didn't see the big hyperinflation piece that everyone was worried about. Fast forward a couple years. We're still trying to get out of this weight of all of this currency that's still out there. You know, if we just went back to some historical norm on this chart, I think we'd agree a trend line might bring us up to maybe here, which would be where my cursor is at, not where it's showing on the screen. But what does that get us to? 6 trillion? I could see that. That's fine. Well, we're still presently at 19 trillion. And this is actually starting to curl back up. We're starting to see this ripping back to the upside. And the question I have for all of you is, over the past couple weeks, we have seen the regulatory agencies in here, whether that's the president, whether that's the FDIC, whether that's the Treasury, or whether that's the Federal Reserve, saying our financial system is fine. We are going to prop up that market. We're going to make sure it's stable. Jenny Yellen just reiterating the other day that, okay, our financial system is safe. I'm going to ask a poll here real quick, and I know it takes time for me to type these things out, so I apologize. Let's see. Do you think that the financial... Oh, great. It's not even going there. Close that out. I wish I could do this by voice. The question is going to be, do you think that the financial system is stable? And I will set that right here. Sorry, my typing is bad, BLE. And there's your poll. Just curious, because if you follow the news over the past 48 to 72 hours, it gives the illusion that things do seem rather calm, right? The money's there, we're backing it up, it's going to be okay, we're going to honor all depositors for Silicon Valley Bank, all depositors for Signature, it's going to be okay. And of course, the whole Credit Suisse thing and the First Republic Bank. Now First Republic tanking again. I don't know if you guys saw the chart today of First Republic Bank. Let me bring that one up for you because that just makes you go, ooh, I don't know about that. Let's go First Republic Bank down 47% again today. And that's after they received $30 billion. Like, I'm pretty sure if you gave me $30 million, I could fix all that ails me. Unfortunately, it doesn't look that way. So this reflects to me a systemic problem where you have a bailout of a bank for $30 billion and then it still continues to crater. That tells me that there's something much more sinister afoot. So if this is just one of the financial firms, now granted, First Republic is not in the top 10, but let's say we've got your Wells Fargo's, your Bank of America, your JP Morgan, those types, Citibank, those types of banks, if they start to falter, then there's going to be much more money needed to pump into this economy to save those banks. Now, this guy Balaji was saying that, look, if this does get much worse, you're going to see huge money printing yet again, which could lead to hyperinflation. That's his argument. His argument is saying that because of the financial stress, because the regulators are going to have to backstop everything, it means a ton more money, which will lead to hyperinflation, which is going to be huge devaluation of the dollar, right? Because you start printing trillions of more dollars, the value of it's going to decline. Now, that said, what is the dollar doing? Let's take a peek at that dollar index to see. Let me scroll back up here to the hundreds of instruments I have. So here's the dollar index, which really wasn't getting beat up too bad today. It was down 0.5%. All in all, it still looks long-term pretty good. If we get back down to that 101 mark and break that and start going lower, then okay, I think we've got some bigger problems ahead. But, right now it's still not looking like the end of the world. And Balaji is basically saying 90 days is when we're going to start to see the impacts and the hyperinflation. So part of the reason that you saw Bitcoin and gold do what it has done over the past few days has been because of this fear that not just this one guy, but many others have been precipitating and pushing out in the marketplace that we're going to see massive dollar printing and getting to that point of hyperinflation, which I was like, okay, I get it. It's possible. Now, judging by this chart, if this was in fact the reality that this dollar was going to get slammed because of trillions of more being printed, this candle would have been much bigger and much more red. Now, maybe it just hasn't been printed yet. Maybe it's still in talks to happen. So I think that there still is that really dark cloud covering the market, which could push these things down much further. So let me go and see what the results of our survey was. 85% of you saying our financial system is not safe, not secure, not stable. 14%, that's weird. Apparently out of a two-choice option, yes or no, only 99% is there, so I don't know why that is. I'll just say 15% said yes, and 85% said no. So it's a tough position to put ourselves in right now. It's like, what hat do you want to wear here? Are you going to play the part of the opportunist and say these markets have sold off and I'm buying some of these securities or markets or banks because there might be good opportunity? Or are you part of what seems to be the bigger group here, which says there's a lot more trouble ahead and we could see a lot more pain going forward, which I think is definitely a possibility. I do think that there's more pain ahead. However, I am still taking the opportunity and buying some securities. As you guys know, my article I wrote for Bar Chart last week was about 3 positions that I was looking to buy right then, which was Schwab, JP Morgan, and Bank of America. I was put those shares this morning. So I am now long JP Morgan and Bank of America. I also sold options against those. So I guess I'll bring up the chart here since I'm on those 2 trades. I'm being fully transparent. So let's just bring up BAC. BAC average price is 28. So I'm still just barely underwater. But I sold the 29s today. I actually got 53 cents worth of premium. And I only sold for next Friday. I didn't even go out 30 days. I was going to try to do them for this Friday, but I felt like I could get good enough money by going out to next Friday, the 31st of March. So I sold the 29s on Bank of America. I'm feeling good about that. I was going to sell the 28s, but the premium just looked too good, and I think you might see a little bit of a bounce here. Let's go to JP Morgan, just to wrap that one up. JP Morgan still faltering, was up 1% today, but not looking great. My average price on that, because I was exercised, was $132. I collected $1.90 worth of premium on that one, so I sold the 131s today. I collected another $190 on that today. selling the 130s expiring next Friday. So let's just real quickly, since we're on this topic, let's see, Blue Design feel more and more like guns of the safe havens. Yep, oil all-time lows today. Ugly for oil. We'll get to oil and natural gas in just a second, but I'm going to run through some of these financials here, and we'll just sort from biggest loser to some of their biggest gainers. When you look out at the pain points in the financials, obviously SIVB is done. Here's First Republic, which you just looked at, which is not looking so good. Silicon Bank is done. But you have Morgan Stanley. Or sorry, this is Morgan Stanley. Moody's getting 1% down today. And a lot of these are down close to 1%. So you saw Wells Fargo down 0.75%, T. Rowe Price down about 0.5%, Charles Schwab down 0.5%. But on the flip side, you actually had a lot of gainers. And I think this was the point of my article I wrote last week was, there's going to be some in here that have a nice bounce. You're going to see some companies that do rather well because they were just caught up in all that hype. And some of these are some very recognizable names: Huntington Bank shares, PNC Financial, Berkshire Hathaway, etc. So this might make sense to look at something like XLF if you're thinking longer term on this one. But this is where you're going to have to make a decision as far as what you want to believe. I really do want to believe Balaji. And here is his Twitter handle if you guys want it. It's BALAJS. He's got almost 1 million followers, so it's not like he's a nobody. He's got some clout and knows a bunch of people, and he's very, very prominent in the industry. But hey, you're saying that Bitcoin's going to get to $1 million in 90 days. I am all for it. And again, his main argument is just a failure of the financial system. And there's a lot of supporting documentation here where he talks about central banks and fractional reserve banking is what caused this problem. And I am definitely a believer of that as well. I do not believe that Bitcoin will get to $1 million within 90 days. And just to make that clear, we'll bring up the BTC chart here, which had a great weekend. I mean, I was really loving this weekend. We actually broke 28,000, currently sitting at 28,000. Yeah, not only did the White House call Buffett, but Buffett was actually sitting with Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell this weekend, Chris. So, it's funny. People are always like, Warren Buffett's the greatest investor of all time. You know what? If I was having lunch with Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell, you could chalk it up that I'd be the greatest investor of all time. You know why? Because I'm using the information from those meetings to bolster my portfolios. And you know who's not having lunch with Warren Buffett, Jerome Powell, or Janet Yellen? All of us. Right? It's not going to happen. So what would happen here? Let's look at Bitcoin. I'm going to just put a marker on 90 days out. I believe this wager was made last week. I don't know the exact date, but I will find that exact date. So let's say it was made, last a week ago. Let's just go. We'll do it from the low. So give the guy the benefit out. Friday, March 9th. Right? So if I go out, I got March, April, May. End of May is where that 90 days would be. So that would be May 10th. So by the time you see this next vertical blue line, that's 90 days out. Let me make sure that'd be 30, 60. Actually, no, sorry. We got to go one more. Right? Am I correct on that one? I'm pretty sure. So I go March, I got to go April, May, June. So there you go. When I see it hit this blue line, he's saying that Bitcoin would be at $100,000 a coin. Could that happen? Sure. Or sorry, $1 million a coin. Sure, it could, but the probability of that happening is so unbelievably small, guys. To me, if Bitcoin got to $1 million in that short period of time, you have bigger fish to fry. What would it, you guys tell me, if Bitcoin got to $1 million in 90 days, type in a chat what you think would be going on in our financial system, right? How would our financial markets look? What would be some of the after effects? Because it says cause and effect. If Bitcoin rallies to $1 million in the next 90 days, it sounds great if you're a Bitcoin holder like me, or Tom, or Big Eb, or others here. If it gets there, you have some serious freaking problems, like monster problems. And I'm just kind of stalling here for a second to see what you guys think, because I'd love to see your 2 cents on it. Because it sounds great to have Bitcoin at $1 million, which I think it will get to, but I'm talking over the next decade, not 90 days. If it gets there, as Big Eb says, it will be a complete collapse. So for those who might not be familiar with, macroeconomics, let's first off take a step back and see what actions are happening right now and what that means, which could be a catalyst for the argument that Balaji is making. Yeah, RG says global crash. It would be a crash of biblical proportions for our financial markets. I mean, if it did happen, which I don't think it is, I'm not trying to spread fear here. I'm just trying to make the argument for Balaji, and then I'll do my counter. If Bitcoin got to $1 million in 90 days, again, it means absolute, complete failure of the financial system. It means that all money is being pulled out and thrown into Bitcoin. And ultimately, what that means is systemic failure of pretty much every market around the world. Because the first thing that would happen is you would have hyperinflation of the US dollar, right? And they're already talking about printing a lot more, so that could create something. Hyperinflation drives that dollar up, which means if I'm a business owner and you are paying me in dollars and I maybe give you a 90-day leniency with regards to credit, I'm not doing that anymore because 90 days from now, the money you paid me is worthless if it's in hyperinflation. So what I'm going to say is no more credit. So imagine what that would do for businesses that extend lines of credit to be, it's just natural course of business activity. 30, 60, 90 days is fine. Now you want instant settlement because I don't trust the value of that dollar anymore. So you're going to see supply chains disappear. China's going to be like, no, we don't want nothing to do with it. Nope, we're not taking dollars, right? It's just not going to happen. So you got hyperinflation. Credit would become incredibly hard because nobody's going to want to lend out money. I'm not going to lend money to you and then you just start paying me back with cheaper dollars and cheaper dollars. That's a losing proposition for me. So what will happen is banks are going to go, no, you know what? We're not lending. We'll do 10-day loans. You want a 30-year fixed rate mortgage? Good luck with that one. So again, you can see that kind of systemic failure here. So you have supply chains just getting crushed. You have no credit to be found anywhere. Prices are indirectly going to be going up. Right? You're going to have people just clamoring to buy these goods and services. They're going to have inflated dollars. So the price of those goods and services are going to go up to accommodate for inflationary dollars, which means a total mess, right? It means an absolute total mess. And what it also says is it's a lack of confidence of the complete financial system as we know it today. Now, to support his argument more, if you look at the white paper that Satoshi Nakamoto wrote in 2008 and Bitcoin was started in 2009, it actually does identify this kind of basic situation. It was created because of a failure of the financial services industry and an ability for us to make payment-to-payment systems, a payment-to-payment network. That's what Bitcoin is. So what could happen is instead of companies accepting dollars, which is inflating because of the rampant printing, they would say, listen, pay us in Bitcoin. There is no inflation of Bitcoin. Granted, there is 6.25 Bitcoin created every 10 minutes, but that's going to cut in half next year. In 2024, it'll drop to 3.125 Bitcoin created every 10 minutes. That said, there's also believed that 5 million Bitcoin have been lost. And I could draw a diagram here for you to explain all that stuff. But that's his argument why he thinks Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million in the next 90 days. I don't believe so. But I saw a comment in here. Could he get to 200,000? Man, if it got to 200,000 in the next 90 days, I'd be one really happy camper. Really happy camper. And let's be clear, if Bitcoin rallies to $1 million, that doesn't mean that all of these other altcoins or shitcoins like Shiba Inu are going to rise that much as well, right? It's really kind of focusing on Bitcoin here. There will be some that rise up with that, but as a peer-to-peer payment network, Bitcoin is the king of the hill. All right, let me see real quick. I asked you guys to type in, so let me give you some props here. Let's see, maybe 200,000 now. I could see it in the next 90 days, though. 10x, that'd be pretty impressive. Very good self-advertisement, but he has great profits. And I think, Rajesh, that's part of it, right? I think that Balaji is saying all this to pump crypto because he's probably got huge holdings of crypto and investments in crypto. So yes, I definitely think you're right there. It's self-advertisement for Balaji. Tom says, Bitcoin at 1 million means that Trader cruise to parts. Maybe. I could very well be. Let's see. Is having a bologna sandwich. I am not. What at 200? If it gets to $1 million, I'll be doing more than a bologna sandwich. Micro says, "Wow, 1 million Bitcoin would. What would gold be?" That's a great question, and I don't know what that would be. I don't think it would see anywhere near the price appreciation because you can't pay in gold the same way you can pay with Bitcoin, right? I've got some gold coins here. Pretty sure if I went down to a store and tried to pay with my gold coin, which is worth, let's say, $2,000 because it's a 1 ounce coin, and it's a $100 meal, I'm like, hey, can I get $1,900 and change? He's not going to shave off part of that gold coin. So as gold has this historical valuation as that flight to security, as a tangible asset I can physically hold, I don't think it'll have the same run. Now, does it get to 4,000, 10,000? Maybe. I can definitely see that as a possibility, but I don't think it'll have the run. I think what this perfect storm of financial crisis is doing is it's allowing regulators to look at crypto and say, let's kill crypto. Let's crush crypto. At the same time, in their efforts to crush crypto and save the banks, it's going to create a situation where people around the world that are doing business are going to go, we'd rather do business with crypto because we don't trust the banking system. So it's almost like they're shooting themselves in the foot by being so aggressive. The FDIC, again, saying if you buy Silvergate or Signature Bank, you have to drop all their crypto business. You know, you're making it very clear what your actions are. Now, I don't know if you saw DeSantis sign something today saying no CBDCs for Florida. I'm pretty sure federal supersedes state law. Just saying. So let's see what other comments here. Bank failure is just a great fundamental excuse for our crypto positions. Most banks will be just fine. I agree, and that's why when I said I'm sticking with J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, even though I hate Bank of America. I think that they'll survive a financial crisis. They might get pushed down a bit, but I still think that they'll survive over time. With inflation, $1 million ain't the same. Correct. Good point there. But I will still take Bitcoin at $1 million. I'm good with that. You're right. If it gets $1 million, we'll all be cashing in, except all the banks will be around to process our withdrawals when you transfer the money back into dollars. Another problem we might have, right? If Bitcoin got to $1 million in 90 days, I would assure you that I would sell my Bitcoin. In 90 days, I would sell my Bitcoin. I pretty much would sell all my crypto because I just don't see it holding that. That's just a complete crazy hypothesis of getting to $1 million in 90 days. But please let it happen. Let it happen. It would be so good for me. I could just think of, my account would be doing really good if we got to $1 million. But I think that your bigger concern would be, okay, most of you have maybe a small amount of money in crypto. So it would be awesome if you made a bunch of money there, but think of how screwed up everything else would be, right? The financial markets would be collapsing. Would be a really ugly situation for this markets, which of course presents buying opportunities. So, if Bitcoin got to $1 million in the next 90 days, I'd probably sell all my crypto. And at that same time, the financial markets would be imploding. I might just rotate some capital back into the equity markets when things get deep enough, right? When the sell-off becomes so profound, you're like, God, this is just too good to be true, like it was back in 2009. Let's see. Peasant says inflation plus the fall of the dollar. Yep. Historically, hyperinflation ends with currency replacement with new currency. So U.S. CBDC will be this summer. You know what? And that's, again, one of those arguments that I think the worst thing that the U.S. could do is to move away from the dollar. It would just make everybody lose faith in doing business with America, right? At this moment, it's still the cornerstone. I know you got some skeptics out there, and America's not as good as it used to be, but it still is the cornerstone of the global financial community. So if you all of a sudden have people who, again, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Europeans are all buying and holding dollar-denominated assets, if we get to a point where the dollar shoots up in value so much that their investments plummet, and then at some point we go, you know what, we're moving away from the dollar, we're going to the Amero or whatever coin you want to call it, or currency you want to call it, those businesses would be very reluctant to do business with U.S. again. You lose your confidence, you lose your faith in that. Imagine someone pretty much ripped you off. Would you do the same? Would you go back and do business with them? Probably not, right? You find some other way. Even though you like their goods and services, you'd probably try to do business with other countries or other people. And I think that's what you would see. So I think the worst thing they could do is devalue it to the point we just say we're moving on to a different currency and do away with it. That would be absolutely... There might be some conversion rate like there was between the lira and the euro. I remember I was there for that, and all the Italians were up in arms about that one. But that went smoothly as they moved away from their traditional lira and go towards euro. But that, now we're really speculating. To me, that's going to be way longer than 90 days out before we get an apocalyptic scene like that. I'm thinking years. All right, so what did Blue Diesel say? What did Blue Diesel? I think I passed that one. That's a good point, Merlin. Always good to have some 10th ounce coins around. I do have a couple of 10th ounce coins. Why gold is not having a similar percent run as Bitcoin in the last month? Given that gold is a safe asset and proven asset over the centuries, gold is lagging Bitcoin in gains. Here's why, and it's a very good point. Ganesh, you're like, well, why is that, right? How easy is it? Oops, I guess I can keep my mug. Let's show you gold. So how easy is it for you to store gold? It's not that easy. right? Now, granted, we could have a few $1,000s worth. You might have a couple $1 million worth if you've got gold coins, and gold bars. The beauty of that part is it's physical, right? I can actually take gold and hold it. Like, I would say have physical gold. Don't be holding GLD. Own physical gold, buy the coins, buy the bars. That is probably your safest way to go in all of this. But there's also storage, right? If you know someone's got bars of gold in their house, you become a target. Now, granted, you know that I've got cryptocurrency and digital assets sitting on this little nano ledger right here. Steal it, right? You're not going to get the currency that's on this, right? Unless you get my seed phrase, which is a far more difficult thing for you to get. So when you look at the qualities of gold versus Bitcoin, gold physical, Bitcoin's not. Bitcoin's simply a code, just a number to access that vault or account. So the movement of it is more difficult, right? Gold's heavy, expensive to store, to protect, and easily a target. I can and do have kind of a code with my seed phrase. So even if you find the page I have my seed phrase written on, you're still not going to be able to access my Bitcoin. Why? Because I encrypted that myself with something that only I know the answer to it. It's like my own secret decoder ring. So you'd never really get my crypto, even if you got my seed phrase. So why is it having a better move? It's easier to move, transfer, store, and spend Bitcoin. It's infinitely easier than gold. If you want to go buy gold, I have to go down to a gold dealer right now, buy those coins, and now I got to figure out storage. I can't use them at businesses, right? Unless I'm going to buy a $2,000 dinner with my 1 ounce gold coin. With Bitcoin, at some point in the future, I could just, maybe the business owner has an app on their phone. And now by using the app, they no longer have to report it as a taxable event. Just saying, they should, but businesses owners don't necessarily have to do that. Got a wallet? You want me to pay with my meal for my meal in Bitcoin? I pay for it. Wait 10 minutes, and all of a sudden, that money is not tracked by the IRS, by California Franchise Tax Board. So it's a win-win for businesses too, although that's on the business side to declare all those things. But that's one of the main reasons, Ganesh, at least why I feel you're not seeing gold have the same run as Bitcoin. Granted, it is moving. I mean, this is a great run. Let's just go from the lows we saw for the past couple weeks, right? I'll go to the low we saw on Wednesday, March 8th. From the dead low to the dead high, gold's up 11.8%. Is it 11.8? 11.1? 11.1. Wow. 1111. Don't see that too often. Now let's go to the spot price of Bitcoin here just to get an idea of what that run looks like. And it's going to be significantly higher than 8%. I'm sure of that. From peak to peak, you're talking 45.9% move up in Bitcoin in the last 10 days. So in that same period of time, Bitcoin's up 4 times as much as gold. And I think a large part of it has to do with this is now removed from a financial institution. You know, if you're holding gold, maybe you're storing it somewhere. I think it's just so much easier to have cryptocurrency and be able to move it around. You know, they say you're not supposed to travel with more than $10,000 in cash. I could take this with me, and who's going to argue what this is? No one's going to stop and search this and ask me to turn it on and see what my balances are. I can say it's broken. There's nothing on it. I can tell them throw it away. If there's nothing on this, officer, even though there's, you know, a lot on here, way more than the limits. Go ahead and throw it away. It's useless. It's junk. They throw it away. Great. I'll land where I want to land. I put in my seed phrase. I got all access to my accounts yet again. So I don't even need to bring this. I just bring my seed phrase. All right. Sorry, I'm rambling. Where's the one from Blueties? Let's see. Merlin would single-handedly crash Bitcoin when he catches. No, I wish, Dave. I wish I had that much. I don't have that much Bitcoin. Come on, man. I did find out that I am actually in the top. Let me real quickly show you this. This is kind of a cool fun fact. I never thought I'd be in the top 2% of anything. Not even in school tests was in the top 2%. Let's see. 1 second, I'm going to type this in here. You go biggest Bitcoin wallets. There's a really cool website out here. I think it's this one. So if you look here, and you look between 1 and 10, so 2.17% of all of the Bitcoins in the world are held in wallets that have between 1 and 10. So I'm in this bracket right here. I'm definitely what's called a whole coiner. A whole coiner is where you actually have a full Bitcoin. And if you guys want to make yourself a little bit ill today, I always love showing this one. This wallet right here has $6.9 billion in it, followed by this one at 4.7 billion, 3.5 billion. So if this was hackable, guys, this would be, because I can click on this wallet address right here. I'll click this one. It's worth $3.3 billion. I can click on it, and I can see when the withdrawals have been taken out, the value of this portfolio. I mean, it's been surging in the last couple of weeks, obviously, but I can see all the balances when they were put in, etc. It's pretty kind of cool. Anyway, I'll move on from there. Let's see. If I see 1 million Bitcoin that fast, doesn't that mean something broke? Absolutely. Absolutely, Blue. It's huge. That's the point I'm making is, yeah, you might have a lot of money in your crypto, but everything else is going to be in shambles. I don't want to see that. I do not want to see that. I do not want to see Bitcoin get to $1 million in 90 days. It would be great for me personally, but I could drop an F-bomb right now and say the entire markets would be fuster-clucked. There you go. That's the term we came up with a while back, right? Fuster-clucked. It would be really bad. It doesn't seem like it's the government just allowing crypto in general to collapse so they can step in and save the day. Well, the government is trying to save the day, and that's the problem that Balaji's addressing. He says if the government keeps printing money, it's going to create hyperinflation. Then we see supply chain disruption because you're going to be paying them back with weaker dollars, so they're going to hold off on credit. You go to the bank to get loans now so you can make those payments, and the bank says, wait a minute, you're going to pay us back at a later date with cheaper dollars. We don't want that either. So you're creating a pretty ominous situation here, which I think takes some time to plan out. It's just a very interesting discussion as to how, if you accelerated all of the events that are happening, and to me that's what Balaji is hypothesizing here, is an accelerated event that speeds all of this up. You could find that situation, but I think that's such a small probability right now. It's not going to happen in 90 days. 1 million call looks good, hyped up, liquidity grab to jump on retail. Yep. Buy real estate when Bitcoin hits a million. Yeah, and why would I do that? Why would it? It's a good point, Big Eb. If Bitcoin hit the $1 million, I would cash out because I now have a lot of dollars. Now that's also assuming that those dollars would buy me a lot less. So maybe if we take out the inflation aspect, it might be $500,000 worth of Bitcoin. Fine, I'm still okay with that. But I would buy some asset that's been very depreciated. Housing market would clearly take a toll if we had hyperinflation. You're printing a lot more dollars, you'd create hyperinflation. And now all of a sudden, if lending standards tighten up and banks aren't willing to lend you money because they're concerned you're going to be paying them back with cheaper dollars, then all of a sudden homes won't be selling and I might be able to buy homes much, much cheaper. So that could be one area as well. Let's see what else. That would fix the border issue. Dealing with dollars is very expensive. Wow, you guys are active today. Gold at 2250, just don't stop me out. We talked about my target for gold is $2,000. We surpassed it. Let's go real quickly look at that one. I mean, there's obviously interest in gold. Oh, we tipped out above it but came back down. Our high today, intraday for gold futures was 2014. Not too shabby, I know you. Did you go short on that one? Chase, did you go short that one? You might have been. That's pretty interesting. It could actually be a good shorting opportunity. You did come at overhead supply at 2,000. There's also, this tail that goes all the way back here to let me get the date for you, the 18th of April of 2022. That was kind of our target for this, or at least my target was for 2,000 on gold. We've hit it, and all of a sudden you get a little red candle. Maybe we'll see a little bit of a retracement here, but all in all, pretty nice move up in gold. Definitely due for a little bit. Okay, so who is going to pay out if everyone cashed out? That becomes the problem. I want to create a diagram for this, but as you guys know, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. Out of those 21 million, there's 19 million have been created already. So you got about 1.7 million Bitcoin left to be created over the next 100 and what year is it? It's 2023. 117 years. In 2140, all Bitcoin will be printed, all of it. So out of that, you have 19 million in circulation. They estimate that 5 million have been lost. So you have the whole world right now is chasing 14 million Bitcoin. And out of those 14 million Bitcoin, the stat I saw showed that like 2 million, only 2 million are sitting on an exchange available for you to buy and sell. The rest are on cold storage, like mine. Mine are on cold storage. No one's going to get that at all. So kind of interesting that we're all chasing this very small little pool of Bitcoin. That could actually vault those prices up very, very quickly if you're using a centralized exchange, which to other arguments here are well, who's going to be there to buy it if I want to sell it and convert it back into the banks? And that is a problem that may not see that one. So to answer this question here real quick, I think I had the biggest Bitcoin addresses here just to clear up for Rajesh. the assumption is that accounts that have not moved within 5 years are dormant. So you can see right here it says largest dormant addresses. And so this is set here for, that's 7 years. Let's go 5 years. So right now they say that 6.14 million Bitcoin have not moved in 5 years. Now, if you want to be a little more conservative and say 7 years, fine. There are right now 3.92 million that haven't moved in 7 years. So I'm in the camp that says roughly 5 million are lost. And can you imagine losing that much money? Michael Lewis says, during inflation, the 1980s homes did not get cheaper. 20,000 homes became $200,000 homes. I bought one. That's definitely, if there's, the thing is, what happened back then is you could get money. You could get very expensive loans. You could buy a 16% loan. I think that this is going to be different, and that's the argument that I've been reading, especially with Balaji, is that the credit crunch will lock down so tightly that it won't allow prices to rise like that. Yeah, sure, you could sell your $20,000 home for $200,000, but where are you going to get a loan for it? Right? We've never really had hyperinflation. Even the inflation rate from back in the 80s was not hyperinflation. I think is it 50 or 100% in a year? Let me look at the breaking point definition of hyperinflation. Oops, HY. Try to spell hyper. Hyper, I thought it was 50 or 100%. Generally speaking, Federal Reserve maintain. No, I think it's 100%. Okay, hyperinflation is a sudden, excessive, highly spike of inflation of at least 50% per month. If we got, and we're not going to get there. That to me is just absolutely absurd to think we get 50% inflation in a month. But if we did, no bank would lend. There's just no way a bank would want to lend you money, and therefore the housing market would collapse. Because we had such a trustworthy financial system back in the 80s, you could get money, it just cost you 16%, right? What the argument here that this guy's making is that you couldn't get money. That was the problem. Yeah, Mark says back in the 80s, banks would give loans to anyone. Right, because the banks knew you're going to pay it back. Whereas if it was a hyperinflation type environment like they've had in Venezuela and Zimbabwe, Argentina, banks are going to lock down because there is no sure thing that you're going to pay that money back. And it could just keep inflating so that when you do finally pay it back, you're paying back at pennies on the dollar. That's too risky. But I just don't think we'll get to that hyperinflation environment. It's almost a silly talk point here, but there you go. Let's see. What does Zed say? What would be the market cap of Bitcoin if it hit $1 million? I can figure that one out for you right now. Let's go Bitcoin right now. Let's go to Coin Market Cap. Type in your guesses. What do you guys think the market cap of Bitcoin would be if we hit $1 million? If we hit $1 million in 90 days. So I'm just going to click on this real quick. I'm going to do a little bit of math for you guys. You can see right now there's 19.32 million in circulation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a calculator here. Put that right there, and I'm going to say $1 million divided by current price is exact. Let's just 28. I'm just going to just say it's 28,000. 28,000 equals 35. That's a 35.7x from here, and your current market capitalization is 590 million. Or sorry, 590 billion. So let's times that times 590, and it would be roughly 21 trillion. Yeah, 21 trillion looks like. That's a bit of a stretch for me to think. I don't think it's getting to $21 trillion, but it could. I think gold is somewhere around that value as well. So anyway, there you go. On the fly math on the Trader Merlin show today. All right. Anyway, let me real quickly run through, since there was kind of an off-topic discussion today, which is one that kind of popped in my head, and I thought it was interesting. I'll certainly be following the Bitcoin price charts because of this Balaji thing. But, that printing press, keep your eye on the numbers that come out of this. It could be really interesting going forward what Jerome Powell, the Treasury, do if we start to see more cracks in the financial system. Bailing out, like I say, bailing out First Republic for $30 billion, and all of a sudden it collapses again. Just has you got to wonder if there's a lot of other banks here that are going to have similar problems, and I kind of feel that would happen. All right, so let me just quickly go through the top 10 here. The Bitcoin number is going to be skewed because that was a result of what happened over the weekend. But that's your leader is Bitcoin. I'm going to start at the bottom, though. Go with NASDAQ, which actually was negative today, but then ripped up into positive territory. You see this long bottoming tail. Let's get that yellow box extended out a little bit further because we're still in it. NASDAQ up 0.35%, so barely eking out a gain. Gold, 0.47%, looking much better over the course of the day. Did break 2,000 before coming crashing back down and closing below 2,000, so that's good. S&P 500 says 0.91% gain. There's my S&P. A little bit of a hammer formation, but it's not at the bottom of a downtrend, right? So no, it's not the bottom of a downtrend, but still looking hammerish and having momentum to the upside for S&P, looking good at 39.83. Keep your eye on that 4,000 level tomorrow. My guess is it will probably go through that. Here's your Dow, 1.2%. Again, that picture is keeping the exact same pattern, up, down, up, down, up, down, down. Today was up, therefore we might actually get a down day tomorrow. I'm just looking at the probability. I mean, it seems like for the past week and a half, it's been alternating days on that Dow. It was 1.2% up today. Maybe we get a 1.2% down tomorrow. Russell 2000 was your silver or bronze medal winner, up 1.28%. It did break down below this kind of bearish flag formation that I had drawn out here, but it didn't really close down below it. Crude oil, a little bit of a relief rally, 1.33% for CL today to 67.82. Hope to see a little bit of stabilization there, although it does bode well for me at the gas pump with regards to these falling prices. So there's your nice little hammer formation. This is the end of a big, pretty heavy downtrend. That could also be another positive move for crude oil tomorrow. And then finally, there's your Bitcoin, which is just screamed up over the weekend. I will show you the Bitcoin spot chart because that is a better representation of the price chart of Bitcoin. And there you have your clean, just very bullish run over the past 10 days, only 2 down days in that whole Bitcoin up move. Got it. That's right. Hammerish. Skilled Document says, your thoughts on the euro and Australian dollar daily charts? Yeah, I look about those already. But let's check them out today. Let's start with that euro. Actually, let me start. We start with the dollar, which is mainly going to be the euro anyway. So the big thing here with this dollar index, everybody, is we did break the lows from just last week. And now you're kind of walking right in this big sideways range that we experienced between early February of this year. After that, if we get down below in that range, then keep your eye on this 101 mark. That could be that next big stop. And if they do start saying, hey, we're firing up the printing presses, we're bailing this bank out and more stimulus, then that 101 is definitely going to come into play. So we go from there to the euro, which is going to look pretty much the same, just upside down, right? There's your euro chart. The difference here is euro has not broken those highs. So for you, skilled stocksman, I would be looking right along right here. 107.31 is the number I'm looking at for that euro. Now, I know some people like to use these little topping tails, these little wicks here, but I'm going through where I see the most body contact, most points of contact here, which to me is right around that 107.35. So you're coming right into overhead supply on this one. It's not strong supply because it's hit there a couple times, right? It's hit it a couple times on that one, but it does look like it's gaining some strength here on that euro dollar. And of course, knowing that the dollar is facing some challenges right now certainly makes me more bullish on the euro. Australian, not the best picture. Now, we talked about this, I think, a couple weeks ago, and then saying that if it does bounce up, you're probably going to come back up towards this area of sideways consolidation, which it did right here. There you go. And you tiptoed into it yesterday. So I would be looking at that supply level between 67.24 and 67.65 on that Australian US dollar as a potential stopping point. But really, all eyes should be on that dollar, right? The dollar index, because that's going to be the leader here. If the dollar index continues to tank, then that supply level on the Australian dollar is going to just disappear and evaporate. So this might be that big turn that some people have been expecting for that dollar index. Now, we did have a big pullback going all the way back to September of last year, all the way through February, right? It was a beautiful pullback. Then it started to make a new high again. I'm like, oh, here we go, challenge those highs. And then, nope, didn't make it. So really interesting to see what happens going forward from here. Let's see. Michael says, Bitcoin at 1 million, would the number of miners increase substantially? Sure, absolutely. There'd be a lot of people that would turn off their miners for other equipment and start mining Bitcoin if it got that expensive. Now, again, that rising tide floats all boats analogy could hold true here as well. You could see a lot of these other cryptos rise significantly in market capitalization. I saw someone was laughing earlier. Let me get props out there. Rajesh says 10% of world assets. And that's only 21 trillion. This is why I call people who like Shiba Inu idiots. And I don't feel guilty about it at all, because Shiba Inu people think that Shiba Inu is going to $1. We've talked about this before. If it went to $1, it'd actually have a market capitalization of 1 quadrillion. That would be 50 times bigger than if Bitcoin got to $1 million. Not going to happen. Shiba Inu people, wake up, smell some coffee. All right, I didn't really prepare anything for today. Boyle equals 140. Yep. And you know what they're going to do, Big Eb? They're going to do a reverse split here soon. Right? Because you're like, oh, it can't go much lower. I'll buy it. It's, it's $4.25. And it's just nuts that this thing was at $4 on February, jumped to $8, and now is back to $4. Unbelievable. I actually thought we'd stabilize a little bit and start to creep back up, but I was wrong again on my Boyle. But they'll just reverse split this one. I think, let me see if they have reverse split this in the past. I can scroll through the bottom here, and you just look for a little S on the bottom. I guess they have not. At least nowhere in the most recent future. Nope. All right, never mind. Oh, there's yours. The last split they did on this one was back in 2020. They did a 10-to-1 reverse split. So, again, that goes back to the argument that these securities, these leveraged ones, these doubles and triples, they just continue to lose value over time. And that's part of the issue here. Here's another split. This is probably a reverse split again. They did a 5-for-1 reverse split back in 2018. So, seems like every 2 to 3 years they'll do a split. You had 2018, 2020, and here we are in 2023, which means I smell a split coming up. Oh, there's another one. Was back in. They did a reverse split of 4-to-1 back in 2015. So we are definitely due for a split. Here's another reverse split back in 2012. So that's 3 years, 3 years, 2 years, and now we'll probably get one in the next couple weeks. Would be my guess on this Boyle ETF. Not very good. Okay, let me wrap up here. There was really nothing from an economic calendar perspective to talk about for today, but here's what you got cooking for tomorrow. I'm using from Forex Factory because I'm just too lazy to clip it out today. Tomorrow, really the calm before the storm for us. So if you're Canadian, trading the Canadian dollar, you do have CPI numbers coming out tomorrow. They also have different versions of CPI, median, trimmed, and common, as well as their core CPI numbers. And then ECB President Lagarde will be speaking as well. Always interesting to see what she says about the markets going forward. And then for the U.S., all you have is existing home sales, so no big deal there. And then the earnings calendar side of things, it's a very, very quiet earnings week, so that is going to be it. Okay, so there you go. And I apologize for anybody that sent in questions on the YouTube channel because I just didn't get a chance to see those today. I'll spend some time tonight and add those to the presentation for tomorrow. If there's something you want me to cover, talk about, discuss, you can send it on in by going to any YouTube video on TraderMerlin, comment down below it, or you can email me at tradermerlin@gmail.com. That said, everybody, hope you have a fantastic remainder of your day. I will see you all tomorrow. Take care, everybody. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.